That's when she said, "That's not my hand."
And hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Mulligan. I'm your host, Shane Harrison, joined alongside, as always, Todd Jordan.
Hello.
We got a lot of interesting stuff to cover this week, guys. We have all kinds of Odor's Moon spoilers, the new mechanics coming out for the new sets. We have our favorite cards and new decks we think are going to come out with these new sets and new spoilers. But first, Team AFK was well represented at Grand Prix Pittsburgh this past weekend.
We did show up.
We were there. Some could say that they saw us. So we'll just go off my experience to begin with. Now, I'll go ahead and say out there, no one from Team AFK made day two. But
Womp womp.
womp womp. But the dream was alive until the very last two rounds. 6-3 made it. Most of us ended up with a 5-win category. Now, and that's saying a lot, considering I know with my deck I didn't have almost any playtest experience with it. I saw what Tom Ross did. I added some things that I thought would be better, which I'll cover in a second. And we didn't have a team deck.
Right. We didn't do the full team experience.
Mm-hmm.
We did coordinator outfits.
We did, kind of. We didn't really do that well.
Yeah.
But, see, we have big boy jobs and big boy lives to get in the way of this more than we like to admit.
Mm-hmm.
But we try to make as much time as we possibly can. That being said, I wish we could have had more time.
Yeah. You never can play test enough.
No, especially once you get in a situation like you were in, which
Right.
we'll talk about later with that tie bracket.
Yeah, that draw bracket is a brutal place to be.
Oh, good. But anyway, okay, so we'll start off here. I played the White Red Human list with my own little splash on it. As you know, Tom Ross had won both Orlando and the Open before.
Yeah, back to back.
Back to back with this list, with making only minor adjustments. So I decided to make my own minor adjustments to it. I put my Magnetic Chasm in the main board, or two of, and I put the Bushwhacker in the main board as well. Some people said that would throw off the mana base, because it only ran 4 copies of Battlefield Forge to make the red.
Right.
I had those 4, and I added in one, just regular mountain. I never had any problems coming out of the mana base. The 2 cards I added in, I loved. They were absolute dream stars for my deck throughout most of the day. Bushwhacker, it's not just a card to come back from languish. It is the card that can put that deck over the top quickly. And so many control players I played against were not ready for it game 1.
Right.
Which is what gave me a big advantage in those matchups. Now, what I did do wrong was I thought that Hollow Moonlight and Eerie Interlude would be good in this deck to survive languish.
Right.
And to mess up a Coco.
Right.
Wrong.
Not so much?
Not so much.
Not so much.
Those cards where you have to take a turn off and hold up your mana. They probably know what you're about to do.
Right. You're an aggro deck who's leaving mana up.
Yes.
Something's wrong.
It looks really weird. I didn't take that into consideration, and there was never a time where I drew it and went, oh, thank God I have this card. No, they need to be completely gone. They're not good for the tempo of that deck. They throw it off. But all things considered, I love that deck. I would recommend it to anyone going to the future Grand Prix or big play experiences. The only thing I would do and add on to is I would put a 3rd copy of my Magnetic Chasm in the main board.
That's an interesting card because we do see a lot of these board stalls in the green-white matches and the humans matches where it comes down to if someone's going to play an outburst or someone's going to somehow clear the board up, and that kind of just lets you bypass it all.
I'll give two prime examples. Game 2, I'm playing against Band Company deck, Band Humans, and they are building up their board because I already have 5 creatures out. So they're building up their board to where they can just swing, not lose anything, and just completely overrun.
Obliterate, yeah.
So over these next 4 turns, if I would have drawn my Magnetic Chasm, I don't care how big your Tyrus Tracker is.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
I'm
win.
coming through, exactly.
I swing for game. Not many decks right now run a lot of flyers, except for one deck.
Well, there's blue-white flyers.
Yeah, there's a lot of
They
flyers.
have a few.
They have a couple. I wasn't able to beat that deck, though.
Right.
We'll get that later. The other great interaction I saw with it is, so turn 1 Kidian, turn 2 Gossmonger, Dragon Hunter, turn 3 Swing. Now, of course, they're going to try to kill Kidian, or try to block him.
Try to get him out of the situation.
Right, they're not going to let him deal combat damage. They're not going to let him survive.
Right.
I played a Magnetic Chasm, so their Silver Advocate was not be able to block. It got Kidian's damage in, and then flip.
Nice.
And then make the blocker with the indestructible. It was a great interaction on the early turns, and it really set the tone for the game. Came out on top of it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of situations where that card has a lot of utility and can be used really well. So I recommend that completely.
So if you had to pick out of your experience over the weekend 1 or 2 cards that were really your MVPs for the weekend, what would you say those were?
Bushwhacker, easily, because he really put things over the top. That +1 the rest of your team, everything gets haste, and with that deck, I can play 3 1-drops and then surge him. So that's an extra 2, 4, 6, 7, 8.
Right.
Plus the
You can
always
burst that
watching,
damage.
plus the +1 bonuses. It's overwhelming on a turn 4 or turn 5. So that card is an absolute stud. I would consider moving him up from 3 of in the main board to 4.
Okay.
Absolutely.
My side of the world, I ended up 4-4-1. Finished out the full 9 rounds. I played the black-white kind of control, like 90% of the control list. I had 5 creatures. That was where I put my flair on it. 1 Avacyn and 4 Knights of the White Orchid. Like that mana jump. I started out pretty rough. Lost my first 2 and drew 1 in the first 3 rounds. I was able to come back to a respectable 4-4-1. So, I mean, had a couple games where Hollowed Moonlight really did some work for me. Beat a Bant player, beat a couple black-white decks, ended up getting knocked out by a green-red deck. My MVP card is Hollowed Moonlight, just because of some of the interactions I had.
You had some
in the tournament.
amazing interactions with that card.
I actually had one against the Bant player where I'd already fought through two Cocos, and on the third Coco I knew was coming. It was Thali's Lieutenant, Reflector Mage on board, and he was basically swinging in, make me block because I die if I don't. And then Coco to pump up the Thali's Lieutenants to clear my board. So either way, I'm at a disadvantage. So I double block, set up my blocks. Coco happens. I Hollowed Moonlight, comes out favorable for me. At that point, he just got salty and scooped his cards up. So, I mean, that was a feel-good thing for Hollowed Moonlight.
It's amazing, especially get deeper rounds in these GPs. This is a children's card game. I cannot stress that enough.
Right.
This is a children's card game
Or it's 8 and
that
up.
we play as adults.
Right.
But some people, in the
Very
later rounds of
salty.
these GPs,
Well,
get
it's-
super salty, myself included.
The
When I
bracket
got knocked
I'm
out, I
in,
was so salty.
every game, every round in the bracket I was in, either me or my opponent was done for the day. So there was
Yeah, you had that extra all-day salt.
yeah. I had
day.
to all day realize the next play I make, if I mess up, that could be elimination. And I also had to eliminate 4 players in a row, which I like winning.
Right.
But I
So
feel
is
a
the gist
little
of this-
bit of
It's
it.
just a Team AFK does a lot better under pressure.
I feel like I do.
I started off 1-2. You started off
0-2-1.
0-2-1. And then we both were in it to the very last
Right.
rounds.
Made it in as good as we could. I was very pleased with it. The top 8 of that GP turned out to be kind of boring when you think about it. It was a lot of green-white tokens, a lot of Bant. We've seen that a couple times over the past few weeks.
If by a couple, you mean almost every time.
Almost
And
every.
absolutely.
Except for that
when
red-white.
Yeah, remember everybody gets up there, that 9 mid-range gets up there.
Yeah.
Other than that, well, even then, you can just look down the list and you'll see them.
Right. I mean, but it was top 8 mostly. I think 6 of them were green-white or Bant.
But I will say I'm surprised. I think the difference with this was I did not see as many bands as I thought I would.
I saw
even,
one.
Even not even just in my games, walking around through the event through the center. It didn't seem like there was that opportunity for the mirrors to knock them all out like there had been before.
Right. They're not cannibalizing each other like they were. There was a lot of green-white, though.
Yes.
I just didn't see it in the draw bracket.
There wasn't even a lot of white-red.
No.
And especially for 2 open wins, you'd think that deck
You'd
would
think
be
it would be up a little bit more.
everywhere.
Green White ended up winning it. I forget the guy's name who actually won, but it was drawn out battles in the top 4 and the finals. I think they were all 2-1 finishes. So I mean that's GP Pittsburgh was a good experience. TJ's Collectibles runs a wonderful tournament.
Absolutely.
Without issue. There was no pairing problems. They had online pairings. Reporting was easy. Side events were firing off really well.
They even had we overheard a couple judges talking that they
ran into an
had,
issue.
Where was that? Orlando?
It was Charlotte. Similar issue to
had.
Charlotte, and they were able to avoid the issue with their reporting software that was a 3-hour delay, I believe, in Charlotte.
Yes.
So they were able to do that. So good on
Great
them.
job.
Good on
Round of
them.
applause for you. Absolutely.
So what we want to probably do now is talk about. I think there's a set coming out here in a couple weeks. Couple old Eldrazi friends are making an appearance, and we'll have some new interesting mechanics.
Define friends.
Friends. I mean, Eldrazi they're friendly, I guess, depending on.
They do
your
share the
view.
love.
Yeah, they do. So we'll talk a little bit about spoilers. Spoiler time. Spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning. If you
For,
do not want to know for whatever reason, then please turn this off.
You can go ahead and skip ahead for 5-10 minutes and then catch the tail end of this.
We're not going to talk about every card, but I think we can highlight at least about 3 or 4 cards that we think are
Yeah.
going to completely have a major impact on Standard. And I would like to start that off with Gisela.
Gisela, yeah.
Absolutely. 2 and 2 white.
Mm-hmm.
Flying, first strike, lifelink.
Yeah.
4/3.
She's a good angel.
So
Well, kind of angel.
in the white red aggro list,
She was an angel.
right. You play the always watching. She comes in as a 5/4 at that point, which is absolutely amazing. She doesn't trigger the humans,
Right.
but I believe you can have one card that doesn't.
Right, and I
I
mean,
don't think that's a big deal.
it's still really good. And on the other side, if you play the long game with her, you can merge her to make that crazy freaking Eldrazi
Brisella.
angel. Yeah.
That has everything you don't want your opponent to have.
Yeah.
And it even stops you from playing most kill spells.
Yeah, and that's the thing. 3 and under, you can't play it, or your opponent can't play it. That takes care of Declaration in Stone, Grasp of Darkness, takes care of
gosh.
Anguish Unmaking, Ruinous Path.
To
all
the
these
slaughter.
things. To the slaughter. Shuts it all down.
Gone.
So, I mean, that's one of those things that you can really make that stick. There's a lot of investment to get it there.
That's when you hope you have that hidden Dragon Slayer in the sideboard to flip.
Yeah, that might be your only way out. You can't even use Foul Tongue. Yeah, it's 3 mana, so Blighted Fin for the win.
It might be your only hope if they get that creature. You might just go ahead and scoop.
Right, we might be. I'm excited for the Long Road Home. 1/1 white, exile target creature. It returns at the end step with a +1/+1 counter, just because the shenanigans that people are going to be able to pull with Avacens, with Reflector Mages. It's just really good, and I'm super excited.
I'll mention dodging removal.
Yeah, dodging removal.
Leaving up 2 mana instead of 3, like for the Eerie Interlude, is a lot more inconspicuous.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because in these aggro lists, you can have one card in hand and leave up 2 mana, and they could think
You can
he hasn't always watching. He has a X.
You can
just can't play
disrupt
right
their tempo too, because like back to Reflector Mage, you can block with Reflector Mage, exile it so combat damage is prevented from getting to you and to that, and then when it comes back in, it's going to bounce something at the end step. So
You can even use it against. Nope, never mind. You can't. Cost 2.
yeah, cost 2, can't get there.
Never mind.
Cannot get there.
I was thinking that would be absolutely cute, but that's not a thing.
There's a couple new mechanics we want to probably talk about here with Eldritch Moon. The first, which we've kind of danced around several. Meld, yeah. Meld is going to be a really interesting and I would say confusing mechanic for new players.
Yes, especially once it becomes a melded creature and then
Right.
it gets exiled or bounced.
Yeah, if you bounce a melded creature, it technically goes back into the original 2 cards, and they have to kind of start over. So there are ways that if you've got a high enough cost bounce spell that you can really put the Brisella back, and that really will help balance that out, I think. But Meld, basically, just the long and short of it, you have 2 cards that are okay or good on their own. And the ones I've seen, I've mainly been on your upkeep if you control both. They'll meld in something bigger.
There's actually one white 2-drop that triggers off your life gain. Once you gain 2 life, it flips.
Right.
Becomes good.
So, I mean, there's a lot of fun that can be had with that. Emerge, if you want to go over Emerge a little bit.
So Emerge, we've had these effects in the past where you get a certain bonus if you cast a creature and sacrifice 1 for its casting. But instead of being able to draw a card, exile something, counter something, this time you are essentially, from the cards we've seen so far, just reducing the cost of the creature you're casting.
Taking the creature to value town.
Absolutely. So, for example, the one spoil card we have right now is a Eldrazi Hippogriff, for lack of better wording.
Right.
It's a 7-drop with this Emerge for 6. So, you play for its Emerge cost, you sack a creature, say that creature costs 4 mana. Now, for 2, you get a 3/4 flyer, which draws a card when you're in a battlefield.
Yeah, and
that seems like value town.
Seems like there's going to be more Eldrazi's. I think this is definitely a mechanic for Eldrazi's because, I mean, as a ramp deck, when you look at the blue-red ramp and such, there's not a lot of early play from it.
Right.
Having the option to emerge to help with this ramp, so you're ramping but still putting some board pressure on will
even
really
given some of these
balance it out.
mandorks that they use.
Yeah.
As some kind of value.
It'll balance it out a lot. The other mechanic would be Escalate, which I'm actually really excited for Escalate. I like anything that gives choices and strategies and lines to the player. We've seen multi-mode cards throughout the previous sets. Dramoka's Command, you've got Abzan Charm. This one's real similar. You start with one mode. One of the examples was, it was like 1 black, and it's +1/+1 or -1/-1. Well, for Escalate, you can go ahead and pay 2 more mana, and you can choose both modes. So you're leaving your mana up, and it makes a player have to think and play around the possibility of that. Maybe it is just a +1/+1. Maybe you can swing a block. They don't know they have to play around that when your mana's untapped. They have to think. I really, really enjoy the idea of this escalate.
This is America. In America, we have choices.
Choices,
so in Magic,
choices,
we
choices.
have choices. We've discovered several times that diversity is what makes Magic amazing. That's what makes it, puts it over the top from the other face-to-face games that we have. So for Wizards to grab that and just run with it is amazing, man.
And of course, we have Madness returning, which is underutilized.
Delirium's coming back.
Delirium's coming back as well.
Madness might get some more love with this, though. I could easily see that happening.
I think
Because I don't think it caught on as much as they had hoped it would.
If you had to pick something out of these spoilers, what are you looking at?
What card am I most excited to
Yeah,
see?
what are you hyped for?
Okay, so we're going to take out the obvious ones. So Thalia, obviously. Everyone's excited about her. Everyone's excited about the other angels. I am actually the most excited for the Kryptonic Fragment.
Yeah, you're gonna try to make this work. Okay, I see.
There's
where we're
no trying to
going.
make this work. This is too easy. So
There it is.
for 3 mana, it comes to the play tapped. You can tap it that a mana of any choosing to your mana base, and each player loses a life.
Right.
So that's good.
Here it comes. Drum roll.
Nope, I'm not going to talk about the Trichinophobia list. I'm not going to go there quite yet. I'm just speaking
Good night, everybody.
in a general aggro deck. See, because once you tap it and both players below 10 life, it flips
Into a threat.
The
Yeah.
Aurora of Emrakul.
Yeah.
So, once it flips over, it's a flying 1/4 death touch. When it swings, each opponent loses 3 life.
Which is good as long as it doesn't get removed.
Especially with one of the biggest kind of like regrets I had in my mind at this last GP was when I get my opponents to 3 or to 1
And you
or
can't
to
quite
4,
finish it,
and
yeah.
they stabilize because there's no. I'm used to burn. I'm a mono red player. I have always been a mono red player, so I'm always used to once they get to 5, it's over.
Yeah, you can close it out
It's
as
done.
long as you have a couple cards.
But this card will give you that option. It has that 3 unpreventable damage, and in multiples, it's 6. So that seems good.
Yeah, that seems all right. I mean, we'll see how that card. I think it does add a lot of diversity and choices. Like I said, I love the fact that we're getting a little bit deeper strategy. I still think it's going to be Bant and humans dominating until rotation this fall.
The humans are just way too overpowered right now, no matter what call you choose, for them to not be. But with them being so dominant, the professional players and the homebrewers alike are going to try to find that deck that destroys those.
Right.
And destroys them regularly. They haven't quite found it yet.
Well, speaking of Eldritch Moon, we do have a couple weeks from now, we will be doing our pre-release and have boxes you can check out on afkgames.com.
Absolutely.
We're going to be doing our pre-release events on Friday night and probably Saturday, maybe Sunday. Check the Facebook for that information. We're going to be scheduling that out. Anything else we really need to talk about this week? Get ready to close her out?
I'm going to put us on the spot right now and go ahead and say that when everything does get spoiled, we will be doing a complete set review.
Yeah, we're gonna try to go through and talk about some of the cards we're excited about, some of the rares, definitely mythics.
Yes. We might skip over the comments unless we see something like a Monte Swiftspear type of card.
Uncommon.
No, she was a common.
Was she?
She was a common.
No, she was. I'm pretty. We'll double check. You tell him he's wrong in the comments below. So we'll
I want to
see.
remember it was a conversation about how a card went from a 99-cent bulk common to a $15 foil.
We'll see. We'll
We'll
see. Comment down below. We will be reading your comments.
Absolutely. So until next week, guys, thank you all for joining in to another episode of The Mulligan. I'm Shane Harrison.
And I'm Todd Jordan.
We'll see you next week, guys. Thank you all.